Michelle from the Holistic Chamber of Commerce in Severna Park, and we are here to bring you today the Mind Body Business Collective, and this is Lore.
Hello, Lore Goldstein.
And I'm the president of the Holistic Chamber of Commerce in Severna Park, and Lore is our membership director. And we wanted to talk to you a little bit today about the connection between physical pain and our emotions and how that's connected. Lore, do you want to start us off?
Sure. The reason why this topic is something that's important to me is because it kind of reflects my own personal journey. I had a history of polycystic ovarian syndrome, disease in my body, and it wasn't okay for me to just take like medication, because a lot of times when we're experiencing physical pain or illness or whatnot, we go right to the doctor and it's like, oh, here, take a pill. And I got to the point in my life where I was like, this is really not acceptable. I don't even know why I'm experiencing what I'm experiencing. And when I made that conscious decision to heal my body, I started learning that it's not just about the pain and the illness, that everything that we're doing, our emotions, our mindset, it's all contributing to how the physical body feels. And I started to make the connection between some emotional baggage and my physical health symptoms.
How did you make that connection?
Research. Dr. Google, no, I don't advise. I don't advise.
We just had that talk on one of our other podcasts. We're like, well, we kind of Googled that, but be careful of Google, because not everything's real.
Yeah. No, I was getting more consciously aware of myself as a spiritual being and whole and complete. So I think my dive into the energetics of the body and seeing the body as a whole system, I came across topics such as, the chakras and how like our mind can impact our emotions. It was just really basically through the research I was doing to find a better way than here, take a pill. So that's kind of how I fell into it. And when I started working on those emotions that were contributing to it, I was amazed at the relationship between the chakra system, the emotions, and what I was experiencing physically. And so once I started working on those emotions, I found myself moving forward a lot quicker than had I been ignoring that piece that needed to be addressed.
Was this, what point of schooling were you in when this started for you? Because I know you have a vast array, and then it kind of honed in a little bit more on dealing with the emotions and the entrapment of that. So.
Well, this was during my career as a traditional psychotherapist, and I knew the connection between like mind and emotion, but traditional therapy can be very segmented, much like traditional doctors. If you have a heart problem, you go to the heart doctor. When I was trained as a mental health expert, it's kind of like, oh, your thoughts, it's cognitive behavioral. Let's work on your
diagnosing.
Yeah, like diagnosing, and it's your thoughts, and let's change your thoughts.
Not looking at the root.
Not looking at the root. And I don't know if intuitively I knew that there was a better, obviously I did, because I completely changed. Yeah, I completely changed how I work with people, but I just kind of knew. I was like, this is all connected somehow. So that's so I was doing traditional therapy, and that's when I started making that transition into more holistic approach with my work. Yeah.
So in you saying that, before we started this, I totally had not even thought of what I was going to say when you said, you do your part. For me, I had a lot. I was a very active child, total tomboy, fell on my head numerous times, fell off ran along the fence and just dropped down. Didn't think anything of it, because my sister, if she did something, would say, oh, I'm going to kill you if you go tell mom. So I never told anybody any of it happened. But as time went on, I kept having more and more traumas. Long story short, I found cranial sacral work after an injury in the fire department, where I was told I was going to be a quadriplegic in 3 years, which is extremely emotional. My headaches were even worse. The numbness in my hands was worse.
Well, that's a driving force. There's
yes.
a lot of motivation there.
And any other injury that you have, you will be a quadriplegic, so do not hit your head. So I would hit my head with the door of the car, and I was like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And it was the heightened state of awareness I was in. I was stuck in the fight or flight mode all the time. I was short with my children, did not want to be that person. I homeschooled my kids, so I was with them all the time, and I was becoming more and more short and not enjoying it. But when I was forced to find another career, I ended up finding craniosacral work, and I was getting chiropractic, and I was getting better, and I was getting better with massage, but it still kept coming back within a week or two. Like, I couldn't go that long without it. But even in massage school, you get a massage every single day, and you give a massage every day, but it was great. I mean, you can't have a better school, but I still had my headaches. And when I found the craniosacral work through an instructor talking to me about it, the little bit of work that she did on me, it was just a couple of minutes, and I explained to her that I felt like a helium head. I said, I started doing cartwheels down the hallway. I was like, literally doing cartwheels down the hallway. I was like, this is amazing. Like, the whole world is lifted. I don't have the weight on my shoulders, like all of those things people say. I wasn't wearing my shoulders as earrings anymore. It was incredible. So I signed up right away, and I started with the craniosacral, and I loved it, and I was doing better. And then the next step was somatic emotional release. And they talked about the class, and I'm like, oh gosh, I'm retired fire department. No, I compartmentalize. I don't want to do this. I'm like, you know what though, but this is going to make my practice better. They all said it's going to make my practice better, and I want to take care of other people, and I want to bring this work to them. And that was my lead, was to help other people become an advocate. I did skip over that. I was told to write a journal. And the journal was huge. My headaches were happening when I wasn't getting child support from my ex-husband. The state would stop paying me, and I had to pay COBRA and like all the financial stuff because I was a single mom and homeschooling, and I was working, but not anymore. What am I going to do? And so when I did the somatic emotional release class, I was partnered with another woman who, for me, a lot of that stuff was way in the background, even though I still had the issues going on. But it was 10 years old of the divorce. But my kids were still experiencing problems. And I said, when I get on the table, I said, this is going to be really easy. I said, I got this. I said, I have hip pain. I went snowboarding, and I took a fall where I just laid flat like a star. I slammed. I felt it go right into my sacrum. Not a big deal. I've gotten rid of all the herniations, got rid of all the scoliosis through craniosacral. You won't have a problem with me. It's not emotional. I just need your work.
Be done like that.
Yeah, just like that. And she's like, good, because I don't like the emotional stuff either, and I'm going through a lot, and I just want to get rid of my stuff too. I said, this is perfect that we're partnered together. And apparently the instructor or one of the teacher assistants walked over and put a tissue box next to us because they heard us saying this.
And let me guess, you're both in tears. I can see where this story is going. You're
so
like,
bad. And I'm probably going to get emotional when I say it because this was like 9 years ago. And she said, she puts her hands on me in just a regular rock and glide, and she said, so tell me how this feels for you. I said, it's really restrictive and it's really frustrating because when I drive, and she's like, so how would this feel if you get rid of this? What would this give you again? I said, oh, it would give me freedom, and it would just feel really light, and like I don't have everything weighing on me. And she said, when is the last time you felt that way? And I said, before my father died. And I just,
you're like,
oh my gosh. And I go, I really hate you right now. And the two of us just started laughing, and I'm crying, but I felt this whoosh go down my body. Yeah. And you can see I get the chills. The warmth just goes out of my toes. And I go, so my snowboarding incident, I was holding my father in my hips, and she's like, yeah, so let's think about that. Eastern medicine, we hold our family in our hips. And I go, I really hate this work. I go, I don't think I could do this. And we're like sitting there, and then we're bawling again, and it was such an impact because I was used to compartmentalizing, and I was taught to compartmentalize. I sat with people when they passed away. I delivered the message to their family, like all of that.
You kind of had to in the job role that you were in.
But I thought I dealt with it.
Right.
I was dealing with it. I got this. I'm in control.
Well, awareness in those situations is key, and really, that's what any of these modalities, whether it's cranial sacral, or the physical somatic work, or for me educating people on the chakra system and where there's misalignment. Yeah, awareness is key, because when you are aware, then you're in a position that you can actually release and do something about it. But sometimes it's hard to make that connection between what I'm experiencing. For my issue with cystic ovaries, I was not making the connection that it's a second chakra affliction, which is about sexuality. And for a long time, I struggled with, not wanting to be a mother. I never wanted to have kids. And my first marriage...
That's a whole other podcast.
I know.
How people treat that.
Yeah, right. Oh, exactly. What's wrong with you? Oh, when you got married,
but
when you're having babies.
When
I'm
you
like,
find
no.
the right guy,
Yeah.
and whenever I hear people do that, I always jump in and go, when you find the right guy, you still might not want to have babies,
Yeah.
and that's okay, because
Right.
some of us have too many, and it's okay, because it all evens out, and
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with any of that.
But my first marriage ended. He wanted immediate kids, and I was like, "Gosh, I don't." I just thought the clock would start ticking, and it would.
Because
would
he's the right
happen.
guy. Yeah.
Well, he wasn't. That's a whole nother. There's a whole other podcast too. But I had to work through the emotion of feeling broken, that there's something wrong with me because I didn't want kids. And I thought, how ironic, because I felt pressured to have kids, but internally I didn't want kids. And oh, look, I developed cysts on my ovaries that make it complicated to have kids. It's like, how divine universal is that? And so then when I gave myself permission to be okay with that, and to work through the emotions of what that meant for me to be like a woman, and be nurturing, I didn't need the cysts to prevent that for me. And then I could, make the other adjustments in my diet and my lifestyle in order to reverse that. But it did take a certain amount of awareness to be like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. Just like you, even though you probably did not make the connection between the hips and your father, when you did, it was like, oh, I get it.
Yeah, and part of the tears was the fact that, one, that I missed him, but two, and that I didn't have that anymore, that security, and that I needed to create it for myself. But the other part was just the whole, wow, that's pretty fascinating, that, because it was legitimately and she felt it. She said that rush was incredible. She said the heat she said you just went from normal body heat to dropping all of that pressure and being done with it. Mm-hmm. And it also made me feel more in control, that I have the ability to get rid of that.
Sure.
And that's probably one of the biggest things, especially being a single mom and having all the responsibility, was being like, I am the rock. I was like, wow. So, and then I started really relating so many things that I was doing, like my dad. I was able to do that without being upset. But I had never known that. And then I started looking back going, wow, well, my car accident, I was upset because I was worried about my sister, and I had all the trauma from that, but I was holding the emotion of what's going on with her and how is that going to work out. And we hold that. And what we call it with cranial sacral is an energy cyst. And how I describe it to people is, you have a bruise, and you have the darker part of the bruise, and you have the yellow part of the bruise, and then as it starts to heal, but sometimes you end up with a little lump there. Mm-hmm. And you kind of, you start naturally just kind of working on it. Well, sometimes that gets trapped in the body. I have a really great tool over here too, that if you get those in different places, then you end up having, and the way I describe it is, you just kind of twist and you pull and you look at, wow, so that's your symptom. Your symptom's right there in the middle, and it could have been a physical thing that trapped that emotion, or it could just be the fight or flight, like when you get in a car accident, or if you almost rear end somebody, or if you almost fall off a step. We've all experienced I'm gonna die, and then you have to get through your day, and you don't realize you are in a heightened state of awareness through the day. You still keep that because you didn't really get a chance to recoup from it.
Right.
That's just like some of the funny things. I had a girlfriend fall down my steps one time, and my family just kind of laughed about it because everybody always fell down my steps. And I'm laughing, going, "Are you okay?" And I said, and she's like, "You guys are evil." And I was like, because we've all done it before. And I think the laughter for us, and I've started noticing that the laughter for me when somebody gets hurt helps me release stress from having had the same thing happen. Because sometimes I'm uncontrollably laughing and my husband gets really upset. But I think that's a part of it, and it's something I've noticed over time. Our bodies, even when you physically work on somebody, when people are more ticklish, I would go down the spine and I would notice people that were tighter in the spine would start to giggle and, oh, that's ticklish. Because our nervous system is not connected to the emotion in a way, like you were talking earlier about how it can communicate. And so it communicates by rejecting, and so that ticklish feeling is like a rejection of don't touch me there, as opposed to I welcome you to take care of this. And that's one of the things that the craniosacral does. It allows your body to choose the amount of pressure or choose the movement that happens, as opposed to the therapist thinking they know what it wants.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of how I left the traditional model of therapy of just being, mindset. Mindset is that I realized it can take a long time if you're kind of left to your own devices to come up with the answer, because we are the creators of our experience. So we create the problem. We were just talking about that. We create our struggles, but we're also the solution to get out of it. So if we've created the struggle, whether it's like emotionally or physically, it's hard to sometimes separate ourselves from that. And traditional therapy is kind of like, well, how did you feel? And it's a lot of allowing people to self-discover, which is great in some circumstances, and it can be done, but it takes a really long time. So I appreciate that there are modalities, whether it's craniosacral, whether it's doing the intuitive diagnostic, just kind of reading it and getting to the solution.
I mean,
or even like a Chinese medicine acupuncture approach, because that is also too about releasing stuck energy. I appreciate that there are modalities there that are meant to help people make that connection so that they can start listening to their body and figuring out, what is connected. Because the whole point here is to get rid of the pain.
And listening and becoming an advocate is key. That is absolute key. If you don't take the time to listen, which is where I think meditation comes in to be almost like a first avenue, to realize what is at the root of it. What is it that you're not getting rid of? What is it that's reoccurring? And it might not be an experience that's reoccurring. Like in the somatic emotional release that we did, it wasn't an experience that was reoccurring for me. It was an area that it was stuck. And it was one thought in my mind, which was not having my rock and feeling like I was just going through the motions to get through, and I was surviving. And we do tend to do that. And when we build on these things throughout life and we don't start to peel them away, survival mode kicks in even more, and then the muscles tighten up, and then we go from the having a regular straw to a coffee straw to a chewed up coffee straw for our nerves and our nutrients in our body to communicate. And things do start to shut off, which is where you start having physical problems because we tighten in that area because we naturally feel it. How often are we driving and we realize, oh gosh, I need to relax a little bit. Like, get the shoulders from being the earrings, that one again. I love that when it cracks me up, because someone walked into me one time and she said, I want to stop wearing my shoulders as earrings. And I was like,
oh, just like, tense.
Or what I noticed one time is I was driving to the chiropractor and I'm like, get out of my way. Oh my God, I'm going to be late. And then I found myself like this, and I just started to laugh, and I must have looked like a crazy person to other people, and I just moved myself back, and I thought my nose getting there a split second sooner, and I was like, I'm only going to get rid of the stress I just put on while driving here. And I was like, what are you doing? And I just started to laugh. But We do, and we hold that posture, and then at night when we sleep, people say, I slept funny. Well, you didn't sleep funny. You slept the way your body was comfortable.
Right, contracted.
What we're bringing on. And a lot of that comes from misalignment, from having the tensions, from an injury, but then we hold that longer because our body thinks it's trying to fix it, and then it loses its way.
I see too a lot of, you were talking about misalignment, positioning and tension, but I also see a lot of misalignment in choices that sparks the emotion behind certain things or physical issues. And, most of my work, I'm very passionate about the health piece, and, a lot of my readings are about physical health issues. I find that when I dig up like misaligned choices, like being in a career that you hate and waking up, Monday through Friday, like just not wanting to go to work and living for the weekends, or, staying in toxic relationships, I found that these actions too, yes, they're tied to emotions, but it also contributes to physical pain. So it's not always just an emotion. There's a lot of times a misaligned life choice that is related
and we're
to
repeating the same thing that felt natural to us. So if it was something negative that happened when we were younger and we repeat that, I
it's
laugh.
all connected.
It's crazy to hear that. And my best part to say it's all connected is doing dissection classes. That like really for me, for my linear scientific, it works great. I have a client that she floored me. She was coming to see me, and she's like, so you told me to journal, and I journaled, and I had off for 2 weeks, and I went back to work, and I got a really bad headache on the way into work, and I had been journaling for 2 weeks without being at work, and I walked into the boss, and I told him that I'm quitting my job, and I decided on the way that I'm going to become a nurse, and I'm done. And she's like, and I just can't do it anymore, and I have enough money saved, and he's going to give me a severance package. And I went, ooh, I need to watch what I say to people, because I said, when you're not feeling well, find out what it is that's stressing you out and find out how you can eliminate it from your life. And I said, that's not what I
quit my job. You're like,
oh, I was petrified. I'm like, oh gosh, I hope this goes well for her. I'm so concerned about her. And she became a nurse, and she's doing wonderful things now. She has a great life. She had a little bit of turmoil with a relationship, but then she realigned that. But we do tend to repeat the things that are unfinished in our life. And so being able to take time to be self-aware can bring you the energy that you need. And we think that, I don't have time to meditate, or I don't have time to pay attention to myself. And before you know it, life is over and you've stressed yourself out. And it's things you don't know that did it.
Right.
Because we don't always, it's sometimes... How many times has a friend said, that person is not good for you? You're a great person, and they're a great person, but together you're just not doing well together. And maybe it's not your time of life for that person. And then you get out of it, and then you run into that person, and you're like, whew, I dodged a bullet. And having that other person share that with you is huge. Having insight from somebody who can see. You might have told them 5 stories that you think are completely different from the week, but they see, here's my little Venn diagram. Here's the little center of this is what's at the root of it.
Right.
Are you feeling this way? Or one question that you might ask somebody that just triggers the aha moment.
Yeah. And sometimes we know it too, and we just aren't ready for that change. But at least you are aware, and when whatever you're experiencing is bad enough, then...
Yeah, which you hope your loved ones don't
you
get
hope
to.
it's not like when you're like
rock bottom,
rock bottom and like super sick. But it's at least you have that awareness and choice to say, you know what, I can't let this go on any further. So let's wrap up and just kind of do a quick review, talking about the connection between pain and emotions or misaligned choices. That the key is awareness, and to start to listen to your body, because it does.
And pain is not a bad thing.
Give
pain
you clues.
is a way to communicate.
It is. The body's very primitive. It can't give you words, but it sure does let you know based on
and stomach aches. And with
Yes.
children, stomach aches can often be
Stomach aches.
anxiety. And You know, how often as a child are we told,
Mhm.
oh, your stomach ache will be fine. I know you have a test today. Just go to school.
Mhm.
Instead
Even
of
weight
saying, instead of
struggles.
acknowledging it.
Yeah, and even weight struggles too are in that category, even though it may not be painful per se.
Right.
It's your body speaking to you.
Cortisol levels get
yeah.
out of whack because
Sure.
of stress and
Sure.
and so much of the time we talk about stress as a negative thing. We do actually need stress in our lives because our heart would not beat without stress. So it's important to change that thought of stress, which we also talked about right before this. I saw a word today, purpose. Instead of saying busy, I'm going to work on, yes, I have a purposeful day. Because that, my heart relaxed when I read that today. It really resonated with me. And it was very helpful. Sometimes those little statements help. So
mental
little
health,
tricks you can do.
Speaking of which, like mental health is also lumped in this. Anxiety, depression. It's a state of your physical body because you actually feel different in those states. You know, panic attacks.
Well, and your chemistry's changed.
Yeah, and your body
So-
chemistry has changed. So it all falls in here. So whatever it is that you are experiencing physically, and I'm speaking to everybody out there, it behooves you to find a system or a tool that you can experiment with to help start to bridge that gap and help you make that connection.
Great advice, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there are different means to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can start by meditation and maybe writing it down, trying to find the common denominator, journaling, finding other resources.
Cranial sacral, going the intuitive reading route, acupuncture, as I guess delegates of the Holistic Chamber of Commerce, we're all about, you know, providing tools, various options, because I don't think one thing works for
No.
everybody.
No, and sometimes it's a couple things. It
Yeah.
just depends on your mood. Because sometimes when people come see me and get cranial sacral work, they want to talk about stuff. They don't want to have a quiet session, and sometimes they want a quiet session, and it just depends on what's going on. And a lot of times they'll talk it out, and then they'll feel better, and they don't. And sometimes I don't even let them. I don't force them to see the relationship to it, just to let them be done. But I mean, it's just so important to be able to take that time to figure out what is it at this time, and this is not something that's going to happen quickly. I did a meditation seminar the other day for some school teachers, and I had a very short period of time. So I did 3 different types of meditation at one time to let them know if any of these resonated with you, take those with you. And so learn what other people are doing. Learn what works best for you. Think back to when you felt peace. Like the question of when did you last feel that you had freedom? You know, when did you last feel at your most comfort level? It could have been when you were a child and you might need to go zip lining to, you know. And just take that time to learn the avenue, if it's speaking, if it's writing, if it's both, depending on the time.
Yeah, it does take several different things. And like for me, I was diagnosed like back in the late 90s, but I didn't start actively working on my stuff until about 2013. So, you know, it takes a long time for us to create these issues. It also takes a while to undo it. And it was just recently this year that I had like my last scan, and I'm completely, you know, cyst free and everything's functioning properly. So, you know, you're talking a good 6-7 years, but it took a lot of, you know, acupuncture, it took energy work, it took dietary change, you know, lifestyle, reducing stress. So it does take a number of things. So don't be afraid to try, you know, multiple things. There isn't going to be just like there isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. It isn't just that's the magic fix. We'll just, you know, wave our little magic wand and it will be.
Wouldn't that be nice?
It'll be good. It would be nice. But
then
it's
we'd be free to make more mistakes.
I know.
So it actually is a good lesson. But yeah, you know, and it takes a while for us to notice, or the body to give us those responses that are communicating with us. So when you get to the pain, like I tell people, what my goal is for you to not come in when you're in pain. My goal is for you to come in at the onset of tension. And so when you get that awareness of, I'm starting to feel a little bit anxious, I'm starting to do this habit that I used to do when I didn't feel well, you know, you start doing a bad behavior, you know, if you drink a little bit more, or you know, or if you have a bad habit that you pick up, you know, start noticing that in the beginning, and that's just the whole point in being an advocate for yourself. And sometimes you have to enroll some friends to be an advocate for you, or a professional.
So your body is speaking to you. Are you listening?
Have a great day.